What are we feeding our brains? That's the topic today of Pressure Free Living. Hi, I'm Elle Ingalls. If we haven't met, I'm happy you're here. If we have met, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm happy to share these free tips and tidbits about how to live a pressure-free life, which means no longer being under the influence of the stress response. So, what are we feeding our brains? This morning, I was thinking about what am I going to share, and it popped into my head some of the work that I did when I was doing a brain health certification with Dr. Daniel Amen. If you know who he is, if you don't know who he is, he pioneered taking very fine brain scans in order to identify anomalies in someone who's struggling. He worked a lot with pro athletes who had suffered a lot of concussions. And then he just branched out. And so I took his brain certification a few years ago, his course, and I came away with a couple of really big takeaways. When he does those brain scans and he's looking for things, for example, like a small cyst or tumor that might be pressing on an area of the brain, that's the cause of certain behaviors or certain emotional experiences. But the biggest takeaways that I had from the course was really asking the question, what are we feeding our brains? And a few things that he shared. One was that if you're having some trouble, brain fog, just feeling like your brain isn't performing the way you want it to, he said, seek out a healthy brain. Seek out someone who really is the brain is working very well because we actually attune to each other. We share information subliminally, like with our brains. It's an energetic thing. And he says, hang out with a healthy brain. So that's the first tip I have for you. It's like just think about the people that you know in your family, at your work, whatever. Who would you say has like a really healthy brain? You want to do time with them. And a lot of times we'll seek out people who are having the same kind of issues and problems that we have. But it's really great to find someone whose brain is working well. And when he scanned his own mother's brain, her brain was far healthier than his own. So he started hanging out with his mother more. Healthy brain. What are we feeding our brain in terms of food? So actually have a list of foods based on recommendations from him. I just concocted a list of foods that are really great for our brains. And that's one thought, what are we actually physically feeding it? Most people aren't getting enough of the right fats. Like our brain is highly made up of fat, so we need a lot of fat for it to operate well. Um, and then I thought of this in terms of the thoughts in our head. Like, what are we feeding our brain in terms of thoughts, in terms of ideas? What questions are we asking inside our heads? Because that's what our brain is going to focus on. And so, what are we feeding our brain? Are we feeding it a lot of doubts, a lot of worries, a lot of complaining? Like, what are we actually thinking about in there? And a couple weeks ago, I talked about how I'm actually questioning and thinking about how if you are a constant complainer or worrier, you're continually triggering the stress response. You're releasing a cocktail and it has dopamine in it. It's going right into the bloodstream, so you're actually getting a hit of dopamine, which has me asking myself or asking the world in general. I can't wait to do some real research on this. Are we addicted to drama? Are we addicted to worrying, to anxiety because of this release of the dopamine? Um, and so that's a question like, what are we feeding our brains? So our biology is affecting our psychology, which then affects our biology. It's this constant catch-22 system back and forth. Um, what does it take? It takes noticing and presence to start to untangle what it is we're actually thinking throughout our day. I remember with a coach I was working with, he said to analyze my thoughts for about a 3-week period. Just noticing. And I was so amazed because I think of myself as a pretty positive person. I was so amazed at how many thoughts I had that were not feeding my brain what I really needed it to be fed. So, for example, you take violin playing, I would hit a passage as I was playing, working with a piece of music. And the first thoughts would be things like, oh crap, that's just not good enough. Kind of a tightening. In fact, that's one way you can discern your thoughts. Are they tightening you or are they expanding you? So that thought, oh, how come I can't play that well enough? I even feel the tension in my face. I feel my shoulders go up. So your body can give you clues too, but noticing the tension. So I stopped that and I started asking, okay, how can I play this beautifully? How can I play this easily, elegantly? Like I started adding adjectives to describe like how do I want it to be? So think of something for yourself. Like what is something that you have kind of a constant complaint about or a worry over? Let's do worry for a moment. So what is something that you're worried about right now? Is it something around money? Is it something around your health or someone else's health? Is it, oh, and money too. It could be your money or someone else's money. For example, I surveyed women at a conference once, and these were women in their about 35 to 55. And the older women, the number one stressor was worries about their adult children, fears about the financial status of their adult children. Some of the adult children were living at home and so those constant worries about the adult children. So when I say worry, it could be things you're worried about for yourself, but also be worries about others. Um, and let's see. So what did I talk about? So money, health, and then love, relationships. So is something going on with a relationship that has you concerned? Is that like a constant thing? And when that goes through your mind, notice the word choice. Is the word tightening you or is the word expanding you? So if there's a money issue, is it, oh my gosh, I don't know how we're going to pay the bills this month? Like, is it like a tension? Or can you open it up and expand and ask the question, how can I more easily pay my bills? Money comes to me from known and unknown sources. That's one of my affirmations. Like we don't even know what's possible, but if we open up the question, how can I, how can I use my gifts and talents to bring more money into my home? Maybe it's not just you. What about other people in the home? Can they up level too? Sometimes we will take on so much of our own of all the burdens, like not just our own burdens, but everybody else's burdens. And like we're carrying a load. Do you ever just feel like you're almost suffocating because you're carrying such a big load? So let's get back to the brain and these worries, these complaints. Every time we do it, we affect every cell of our body, not in a positive way. Doing some work, some studying around the endocrine system and DNA and what happens when we think certain thoughts. Every time we have a tightening thought, it literally affects our very DNA. It wears at our chromosomes. It wears us down. It ages us. It takes us out of our game. And now this brain is shut down. We're not operating very efficiently and we're tired at the end of the day. So if you want to light that all up, start noticing if a thought is tightening you or opening you. And any tightening thought can be opened, no matter how challenging it is. There's a way to open it and find some sort of gratefulness or some kind of turnaround. One of the things I will tell myself, it's an affirmation when something is really, really tough, I'll say something like, this too shall pass. Because if there's one thing we can count on, it's that everything is changing. Everything is always changing. So back to the brain for a moment and why it's so important to analyze what you're feeding it, both in terms of food and in terms of thoughts, in terms of questions. Your brain has something called the glymphatic system. This system was just identified in 2022, though scientists have been skirting around it for a long time, noticing that the brain needs to clean itself, hopefully every single night. But if we've triggered the stress response, it's not cleaning itself at night, which is why if you're having a lot of stress in your life, you can be so exhausted. And even if you do sleep, in the morning you're still tired. That's a sign that you've triggered the stress response, probably repeatedly throughout your day in subtle little ways. It doesn't have to be like the big scary things, but it could just be little subtle ways. That's what was happening to me, and I didn't know it until 2010. But when you can stop releasing all those hormones, which by the way take hours to get out of our cells so that until we're back to normal, but most of us are never back to that point because we just kept triggering all the time, or we keep triggering all the time. So, but once you stop that cycle, now your brain gets to clean every single night. Your lymphatic system is cleaning down here, all your lymph nodes and everything. They're doing their work. And the glymphatic system is doing its work. So it's literally removing all of the dead cells, all of the detritus, all of the plaques that we hear about when we talk about dementia and Alzheimer's. Like we get to clean our brain. And the last thought I want to give you today, just thinking back to my work with Dr. Amen, is that our brains are so able to change. They're so able to change. They are not fixed. Like our brains are incredibly plastic, far more plastic than we ever thought. So when you really change up what you're feeding it, there's so much that's possible for you. So when I work with someone who's been given a diagnosis, a brain health, a mental diagnosis, from the moment I start work with them, I know that probably their glymphatic system is shut down. So what happens when we can turn that thing on? Like that is the magic of pressure free. It's literally controlling our biology in order to heal our psychology. And then in turn, by healing our psychology, we'll heal every single part of our body. Like we have these opportunities. And by heal, I don't mean that all symptoms may go away, but we can lessen symptoms. And that just sets us on a path of more hope. And hope to me, I think, is one of the most important things when I'm first working with a client because we've been in these patterns for years and years and years, decades maybe, depending on how old you are. My birthday's coming up next month, so it's like, oh my goodness. So leave you with this. I'll leave, as I'm thinking about this, our brain is really able to change, able to heal if we can get that healing system turned on. Fastest way to get that healing system turned on is to stop triggering the stress response, stop releasing floods of hormones that are just going to muck this all up. Once we start to do that, then it's like we've pushed a reset button. And at night, our glymphatic system and our lymphatic system are working so much more beautifully for us. We're literally cleaning and refreshing and rejuvenating at night instead of taking all night just trying to dissipate hormones, these fight or flight stress hormones, out of our cells. So we need to get back to homeostasis as fast as possible for all of our cells to work well. If the cells are working well, then the organ starts to work well. Then the whole organism can start to work better. So I wish you a great pressure-free day, and I will see you tomorrow.